If you've been looking for side hustle ideas, then this video is for you. I've been talking about and teaching Etsy and print on demand for a while now, over a year on TikTok, and now this year on YouTube. But I realized from some of my comments that I actually never even fully explained what print on demand is to my YouTube channel. So today I want to go through what is print on demand, how you connect it with Etsy, and how I got to where I am with my store. So back in 2020, when the world came to a screeching halt, I had so much time on my hands. I'm sure like many people in the world. I was finishing work at 5 and then I was in my tiny Toronto apartment, which was maybe 500 square feet, not that much room. And I had nothing to do and nowhere to go. So I wanted to make sure that I was actually filling up my time with something productive. So at least I could say I came out of quarantine a little bit better than I went in. So 2020 is really where I started exploring with different side hustles to see if I could start making income on my own. So I started learning, and I actually started with drop shipping, and it was not for me. I started a store and I think I made about 10 sales pretty early on, which I was super ecstatic about. And then I had to refund them all. They all showed up. They were horrible quality. They got stuck or lost in shipping. And pretty much I determined that my quality was so I pretty much closed that store and started looking for other drop shipping store ideas that I could start working on. I started 2 other ones, and honestly, they just never really kicked off. And honestly, the only thing that was driving me to sell was trying to make money, and I actually did not like the process of it at all. Then I was working in digital marketing, so I was like, hey, maybe I'll start offering digital marketing on Fiverr. Turns out my work found out, and that wasn't allowed because apparently that is competition. So unfortunately, because of work, I was forced to shut that down as well. So with the side hustles not really turning out, I was kind of in an idea dry spell. So I decided to start just picking up a hobby. I'd always loved drawing. I was never very good at it, but this was finally my time to actually sit and focus for a few hours a day on drawing. So I started drawing people and pets just on my notebook, just for fun, trying to copy things I found on Pinterest and learning. And then I was super lucky, and my boyfriend actually brought me an iPad so that I could start digital drawing because I had talked so much about wanting to bring these to a digital format because then I just found it was so much easier to make any changes. So now I started drawing people and I started drawing pets just on my iPad using Procreate. I started getting better and I thought, hey, why don't I start offering these on Etsy? I had actually never used Etsy before. I had no clue about the platform. It was going in pretty much blind. I started listing my products and learning about Etsy. And I actually was able to make, I think I made like 300 on doing pet portraits within the first 2 months, which is probably the best turnout I'd ever had for any of my side hustles. And I was like, wow, Etsy is very powerful. At that time, I had not learned much about Etsy at all. I really wasn't fully understanding of the titles, tags, and descriptions. Luckily, I was familiar with some SEO due to my job, but not the Etsy specific SEO. Then I started making a decent amount doing these pet portraits, but the downside started coming when I realized just how much work went into these pet portraits. I was charging like $50, but it was taking me about 1 to 2 hours to actually do one pet portrait while I was also working my 9 to 5. And I remember during Christmas time when my shop started getting really popular, I got about 20 orders in a day. On my store, I promised a week turnaround, and working my 9 to 5 with that just led me to burnout. I was just working insane hours. I would finish my job at 5 and then I would work till about midnight trying to get as many of these pet portraits out as quickly as possible so that I wasn't getting a bunch of complaints on my store. And then on top of that, a bunch of people started selling the same thing on Etsy. Of course, different styles, but they were charging half the price as me. And honestly, that was just very unsustainable for me. And I just started getting less and less sales. And then honestly, I kind of just grew to dislike drawing them because now I turned what was my hobby from drawing into a career. And honestly, it kind of just dried up the passion for me, and I actually closed that store. But while that really sucked, I learned so much about Etsy. I learned so much about business and customer service, and I just really did not want to stop with the momentum that I had grown in learning new skills. And so I was wondering, what's a way that I can start selling on Etsy, but have it more scalable so that when I sell, ideally, I'm not spending an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours trying to fulfill that order. I started an Etsy digital download store because I heard that was the best way to go. I'm sure for some people it is, but honestly, I just did not love designing for the products that I was creating. So I didn't continue down that route. And then at the same time, on YouTube, I heard of print on demand. So, a quick summary: print on demand is when you design a product, t shirts, mugs, sweatshirts, and you have an external provider, mine is Printify, that when you get an order will print a design that you created on a product. So, if you ever get an order, you've already pre created the design. Your supplier just automatically prints and ships your product for you. So, when you get an order, you actually don't have to do anything. And spoiler alert, this is a side hustle that worked for me and allowed me to quit my 9 to 5. But I'm not saying that this was the get rich quick type of scheme. I had learned from all my other businesses, you do need a little bit of patience and learning to get any results. And it actually took me 5 weeks to make my first sale on my Etsy print on demand store. It took probably like 6 months to start seeing $1,000 profit months. And then 9 to 10 months later, I was able to quit my job because I started making around 5 to 10,000 profit per month, which was exceeding my 9 to 5. So what is the exact process for print on demand? So pretty much you go into a supplier. Again, I use Printify, and you pick a product. For me, I love selling my sweatshirts the most, but there's also t-shirts, there's dog bandanas, you can do blankets. There are literally hundreds of different print on demand products that you could choose to print. And what you do is you use a design platform like Canva, Illustrator, Kittl, anything that you are familiar with, and you create a design for that product. Then you are able to actually lay out your design on that product, and from the supplier site, push it to your Etsy store. And then you're able to go into Etsy and you can add in photos, your titles, your descriptions, following all the Etsy guidelines so that people are able to find you in the Etsy search. Once they find you in the Etsy search and they decide to make an order, what's going to happen is that supplier, Printify, is automatically going to detect that order, and they're going to send it to print for you, and they're going to print and ship it to your customer and mark it as complete on Etsy. You do actually have to pay Printify to create that product. You only pay when you get a sale, and then you make sure you are charging higher on the Etsy end. So then you can pay off Printify with your profit from Etsy or your revenue, and then you keep the difference, which is your profit. And again, I have tested so many different side hustles and I have failed at so many side hustles, but this one was just perfect for me, and let me explain why. The first reason I love print on demand is because it is a super low cost to start. You don't have to pay for much. Etsy is free, Printify is free. You only pay for Printify for the products, for the orders that you get. So you only pay when you make a sale, so you're not having to spend any money upfront, like on inventory or equipment, and then to find out later that you spent thousands and you never make a sale. This way, you only pay when you make a sale. And then on Etsy, you only have to pay 20 cents per listing. So really, that isn't much. And then you are going to need probably a few subscription services like a design platform like Canva. Then my absolute favorite thing about print on demand is just how scalable it is. So like I talked about earlier, when I did my pet portraits, if I got a sale, I would then have to spend a few hours working on that sale to make sure it's fulfilled. But with print on demand, I can make one sale a day, or I can make 30 sales in a day. And how much time I spend on that does not change. I do just as much work between 1 and 30 sales because of my external provider who is doing all the work to print and ship it for me. I love how many different options there are out there for print on demand as well. When I talk about print on demand, people automatically think t-shirts. But if you take a look at Printify or even other suppliers, there are thousands of print on demand products that you can sell to stick out. So try to think outside the box and maybe don't do nursing t-shirts like everybody else does. I'm sorry if you do nursing t-shirts, don't take offense to that. But you can get a little bit more creative and not just do the obvious, because t-shirts are not the only print on demand product out there. Far from that. The next reason I love it is because of the flexibility. You can work on your schedule and you can work where you want. I'm actually currently in Bali. I'm going to be traveling around for a while. Because I don't have to have the equipment personally and I don't have to ship any products, I don't have to be where my printer is. I can work all over the world and never have to worry about fulfilling and shipping. So I can be working on my Etsy store from anywhere. And you can also pick your own schedule. You don't have to work 9 to 5. If you only have an hour a day to work on your store, you only have to put in an hour. If you want to put up a lot more products and you want to put in 5 hours a day, you can do that as well. Your growth is not dependent on a certain amount of hours. It's just how much effort you put in, but it's not like you're going to need to work 10 hours a day every day to see any results. In fact, when I first started, I was only doing 1 to 2 hours outside of my 9 to 5 to slowly build my store, and that was enough. And the last benefit is that it is minimal risk because there wasn't a big upfront cost for you to start. If you don't make any sales, it's not like you wasted tens of thousands of dollars to start up this business. You maybe wasted $50. So it is extremely low risk. So if it doesn't work out, it's not like you've put yourself into debt to get this started. So it is a very low risk type of business that you can start. If you yourself wanted to start print on demand, I would really recommend starting and just seeing if it is something you enjoy. Like I said, I probably didn't succeed at drop shipping because I did not like the process. I fell in love with the print on demand process. I still put in about 2 hours a day into designing and researching and planning on Etsy just because I love to do it. And honestly, with any side hustle, if you are just doing it to make money, but you're not finding any joy out of the process, I'm sorry, but you're probably not going to succeed, or you're going to give up way too early, or even if it does succeed, now you're just locked into doing something that you hate. Print on demand truly changed my life. I would not be here in Bali and working if I had not started my print on demand store over almost 2 years ago now. Yeah, probably almost 2 years ago. Which allowed me to quit my job now over a year ago and start this digital nomad life, which I always dreamed of, but I never thought it was possible for me. So if you're watching this and you are feeling that spark, that excitement, then maybe this is something that you should be trying out. And you can watch some of my other YouTube videos. I'm trying to put out a lot of free content out there for people. I also have a free training, and I do have students as well. But again, you don't need to go that route if you don't want to. I'm trying to grow on YouTube, so I'll be teaching tons on here, and I just hope that you follow along because I can't wait to see where you take your store. And many people have asked me why I'm trying to teach other people the same type of business if this is where I make money. I've been teaching for a while, and there are thousands of niches, and like I said, thousands of different products out there. So I'm not too worried about competition. I'm trying to stick out and think of niches that people aren't going to think of. Maybe a few of you guys will, but honestly, probably not. My niches are super specific, and everyone has tons of ideas that I myself will probably never think of. So I truly believe that there is so much room in the print on demand world for many of us to be successful. All right, thank you guys so much. If you do want to learn more or stay tuned for more future videos, please drop a like and subscribe. It would help me so much and be the little kick to help me release more content like this that will help you grow. Thanks, guys. I'll see you online.